I'm shattered and lost. It all kicked off when I caught my wife Sarah cheating with not one but two guys. And get this, they're twins. Just when I thought I had it all figured out, wham, double betrayal. My 15-year marriage, in ruins. That dream house we built together, slipping away. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's rewind and take this nightmare one step at a time. Hey there, I'm Tom, 42, and my world's just imploded. Figured I'd spill my guts here cause, well, why the hell not? Sarah and I, we go way back. High school sweethearts, if you can believe that cliche. We tied the knot right after college, both 27 and ready to take on the world. For the first decade, life was pretty sweet. We both had decent jobs, bought a cozy starter home, traveled a bit. Sarah works in marketing, I'm in IT. Nothing fancy, but we were comfortable. About 5 years ago, we decided to upgrade. Found this gorgeous piece of land just outside the city. Real Norman Rockwell stuff, you know? Rolling hills, big oak trees, the whole shebang. We poured our hearts and our savings into building our dream home. I'm talking custom everything. Hardwood floors, granite countertops, a freaking man cave for me. Sarah got her Pinterest-perfect kitchen and a walk-in closet big enough to park a car in. Life was good, or so I thought. Looking back, I guess the signs were there. But when you're in the thick of it, working your tail off to keep the American dream afloat, you don't always see what's right in front of your face. It started small. Sarah working late more often. Her being glued to her phone, always texting and giggling. At first, I didn't think much of it. Hell, I even felt a little proud. My wife climbing that corporate ladder, you know? But then, well, crap hit the fan. There was this work conference in Chicago. Sarah was psyched about it, said it was a big deal, could lead to a promotion. I was all for it. Even helped her pack, picked out her power suits and all that jazz. She came back, different, distracted, kept talking about this guy she met, Jake. Jake from accounting. Jake with the brilliant ideas. Jake. I'll admit I got a little jealous, but I trusted Sarah. 15 years of marriage, right? That means something. Or so I thought. Weeks went by. Sarah was working later and later. Always had some excuse. Big project, deadline, client emergency, you name it. Then came the weekend work retreats. First, it was once a month, then every other weekend. I started feeling like a damn bachelor again, rattling around in our big, empty house. I tried talking to her about it. Hey babe, maybe we could plan a weekend away? Just us? She'd smile, kiss my cheek and say, soon, honey, things are just crazy at work right now. But soon never came. Instead, I got more Jake stories. Jake said this. Jake thinks that. Jake, freaking Jake. Then out of the blue, there was Luke. Who's Luke? I asked one night over dinner. Well, my dinner. Sarah was pushing salad around her plate, barely eating. Oh, he's new at the office, she said, not meeting my eyes. Jake's friend. He's helping out with our big project. Now, I'm not the jealous type. Never have been. But something about the way she said it, it set off alarm bells. From then on, it was Jake and Luke this, Jake and Luke that. Always in the same breath, like they were joined at the hip or something. I started noticing other things too. Sarah buying new lingerie but never wearing it for me. Her going to the gym more, losing weight, getting all toned. Hell, she even started eating kale. Kale! The woman who once said she'd rather eat dirt. One night, I woke up at 3 a.m. Sarah's side of the bed was empty. I found her in the kitchen, hunched over her phone, typing away. When she saw me, she nearly jumped out of her skin. Jesus, Tom, you scared me. Sorry, I mumbled. What are you doing up? Oh, just checking work emails. Couldn't sleep. I nodded, got some water, went back to bed. But as I lay there, staring at the ceiling, I couldn't shake this feeling in my gut. Something was off. Way off. The next morning, I casually asked, everything okay at work? Seems like you're under a lot of pressure lately. Sarah plastered on a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Oh, you know how it is. Big accounts, big stress. But I'm handling it. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But that nagging feeling wouldn't go away. So I did something I never thought I'd do. Something that made me feel like a total scumbag. I snooped. While Sarah was in the shower, I checked her phone. Nothing suspicious in her texts or emails. But then, I noticed an app I didn't recognize. Vault, it was called. My heart was pounding as I tapped it. Password protected. Damn. I tried her birthday. Nope. Our anniversary. Nada. Then, on a hunch, I tried Jake Luke. Bingo. The app opened, revealing hundreds of texts and photos, and just like that, my world crumbled. I felt sick to my stomach as I scrolled through message after message. Flirty texts, explicit photos, plans for meetups. It was all there. And it wasn't just Jake. It was Luke, too. Sometimes separately, sometimes together. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My Sarah, my high school sweetheart, the woman I'd built a life with, was carrying on with two men. Twin brothers, no less. I must have been standing there frozen for a while because suddenly I heard the shower turn off. Panic set in. I quickly closed the app, put the phone back, and stumbled out of the bedroom. I spent the rest of the day in a daze. How could she do this? How long had it been going on? And why twins? The questions swirled in my head, making me dizzy. That night, as we sat down for dinner, I couldn't even look at her. Sarah, oblivious to my inner turmoil, chatted away about her day, about some office drama involving, you guessed it, Jake and Luke. I wanted to scream. I wanted to flip the table, to confront her right then and there, but something held me back. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was fear. Or maybe, deep down, I was hoping there was some explanation, some way this wasn't as bad as it looked. So I sat there, pushing food around my plate, nodding at appropriate intervals, all while my heart was breaking into a million pieces. As I lay in bed that night, Sarah sleeping peacefully beside me, I made a decision. I needed proof, concrete, undeniable evidence, and then I'd confront her. Little did I know, the worst was yet to come. Man, the next few weeks were hell, pure, unadulterated hell. I was living with a stranger, a lying, cheating stranger who happened to share my last name and my bed. Every morning, I'd watch Sarah get ready for work, wondering if she was dressing up for them. Every night I'd lie awake, imagining what or who she was doing during those late nights at the office. I started drinking more. Nothing crazy, just a beer or two to take the edge off. Okay, maybe more than a few some nights. Sue me. I knew I needed evidence, but how? I'm no private eye. Hell, I can barely operate our smart TV without Sarah's help. But desperation is one hell of a motivator. First, I tried following her. Sat outside her office one night in my car feeling like a creep. Saw her leave with a tall, good-looking guy. Couldn't tell if it was Jake or Luke. They're identical twins, remember? They got into his car and drove off. I tailed them to a hotel downtown. Shit, this was really happening. I thought about bursting in there, catching them in the act. But what good would that do? I needed more. So I got creative. Installed a GPS tracker on her car when she was asleep. Set up a hidden camera in our bedroom. Yeah, I know, invasion of privacy and all that. I felt like scum, but I had to know. And then I waited, and watched, and died a little inside every day. The GPS showed regular trips to that same hotel, sometimes to an apartment across town. The camera, well, let's just say I saw things no man should ever see his wife doing with another guy. Or two guys. But the kicker, the absolute gut punch? It was a conversation I overheard. Sarah was on the phone in the bathroom, thinking I was asleep. I crept up to the door and listened. "I can't keep this up much longer, Jake," she was saying. "Tom's getting suspicious." A pause. "No, I don't want to leave him, you know that. He's stable. Safe." Another pause. "Of course I love you and Luke, it's just complicated." I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. She was staying with me because I was safe? Stable? What the hell did that even mean? The next day, I called in sick to work. Couldn't face anyone. Spent the day alternating between crying and raging, broke a few plates, drank too much whiskey. Real mature, I know. When Sarah got home, she found me passed out on the couch. She sighed, actually had the audacity to look annoyed, and went upstairs without a word. That's when I knew. It was over. Had been for a long time. I was just too blind to see it. The next morning, nursing a killer hangover, I made a decision. No more sneaking around. No more playing detective. It was time to confront her. I waited until she got home from work. She waltzed in, all smiles, carrying takeout. "Hey, honey, I brought dinner. Thought we could have a quiet night in." I just stared at her. Who was this woman? This stranger wearing my wife's face? "Tom, you okay?" I took a deep breath. "We need to talk, Sarah." Her smile faltered. "Oh, okay. What about?" "About Jake and Luke." The color drained from her face. What do you mean?" "Cut the crap, Sarah. I know everything." She tried to play dumb, denied everything, said I was being paranoid, but I wasn't having it. I laid it all out. The late nights, the weekend retreats, the phone calls, the hotel visits, all of it. Sarah's face went through a range of emotions. Shock, anger, fear, and finally defeat. "How long have you known?" she asked quietly. "Long enough," I said. "Why, Sarah? Why them? Why two of them?" She sank into a chair, looking suddenly old and tired. I don't know, it just happened." "Bullshit," I exploded. "Things like this don't just happen. You made choices, over and over again." Tears started rolling down her cheeks. "I'm sorry, Tom. I never meant to hurt you." I laughed bitterly. "Well, bang up job on that one, sweetheart." We talked, argued for hours. She told me everything. How she met Jake at the conference, how one thing led to another. How she met Luke a month later and, thinking he was Jake, kissed him. The twins thought it was hilarious and decided to keep up the charade. "So what, it was all a big joke to you? Our marriage? Our life together?" Sarah shook her head vehemently. "No, I love you, Tom, I do, it's just... with Jake and Luke, it's exciting. Different. And I'm what? Boring? Safe?" She didn't answer, didn't need to. Her silence said it all. I stood up, suddenly bone-weary. "I want a divorce." Sarah's head snapped up. "What? No, Tom, please, we can work this out. I'll end it with them, I swear." But I was done. Done with the lies. Done with the betrayal. Done with being the safe option. "It's over, Sarah. You made your choice. Now you have to live with it." I walked out of the house that night, checked into a hotel, the same one she'd been meeting her lovers in, ironically enough. Poetic justice, I guess. As I lay in that unfamiliar bed, staring at the ceiling, I felt empty. Hurt, yeah. Angry, definitely, but mostly just numb. 15 years of marriage, gone, just like that. I'd love to say I handled it all with grace and dignity, that I was the bigger person. But that'd be a lie. I got drunk, a lot, missed work, ignored calls from friends and family. Basically turned into a walking cliche of a man going through a midlife crisis. But rock bottom, that came a few days later, when I found out the full extent of Sarah's betrayal. And let me tell you, it was a doozy. So there I was, holed up in this crappy hotel room, surrounded by empty beer cans and takeout containers. Real classy, I know. But hey, a guy's gotta grieve, right? I'd been dodging calls from everyone. My folks, my sister, even my boss. But then my phone buzzed with a text from my buddy Mike. "Dude, where the hell are you? We're worried sick. Call me." I don't know why, but I did. Maybe I was just tired of being alone with my thoughts. "Jesus, Tom," Mike said when I called. "You sound like shit." "Feel like it too," I mumbled. Long story short, Mike convinced me to meet him for a beer, said I needed to get out of that room before I started talking to volleyballs or something. So there we were, sitting in this dive bar, nursing our beers. I spilled my guts to Mike, told him everything, the cheating, the twins, the divorce. Mike listened, nodding and making sympathetic noises. But then he got this weird look on his face. "What?" I asked. He sighed. "There's something you should know, man. About Sarah." My stomach dropped. "What now?" Mike hesitated, then said, She's pregnant, Tom." I nearly choked on my beer. "What? How do you know?" "Jenny told me," he said, referring to his wife. "She ran into Sarah at the grocery store yesterday. Sarah was buying prenatal vitamins." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Pregnant. Sarah was pregnant. And given the timing, "It's not mine," I whispered. Mike just nodded, looking miserable. I stumbled out of the bar, ignoring Mike's calls. My head was spinning. Pregnant. With one of the twins' kid. Or both. Was that even possible? I ended up back at our house. Well, Sarah's house now, I guess. I don't even remember driving there. Probably shouldn't have been behind the wheel, to be honest. I burst through the door, half drunk and all rage. Sarah. She came running down the stairs, looking alarmed. Tom? What are you doing here? You're pregnant? I spat out. Her face went white. How did you… Doesn't matter. I cut her off. Is it true? She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. I was going to tell you, I swear. I didn't know how. I laughed bitterly. Oh, I don't know. Hey, Tom, not only have I been cheating on you with twins, but I'm also knocked up with one of their kids. How's that for a start? Sarah flinched. It's not like that. I don't know who the father is. That stopped me cold. What do you mean you don't know? She sank onto the couch, looking utterly defeated. I was with both of them around the time I must have conceived. Jake and Luke. They're identical twins. Their DNA is the same. There's no way to know which one is the father. I felt like I was in some bizarre soap opera. This couldn't be real life, could it? So what? You're just going to raise this kid not knowing which of your boy toys is the daddy? Sarah looked up at me, her eyes pleading. I hoped maybe we could raise it together. I stared at her, speechless. Was she serious? Are you out of your mind? I finally managed to say. You want me to raise your love child? The living, breathing proof of your betrayal? Tom, please, she begged. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But this baby, it's innocent in all this, and I still love you. I felt something inside me snap. Love me? Love me? You've got a funny way of showing it, Sarah. Screwing two guys behind my back, getting pregnant, and then expecting me to play happy families? That's not love. That's selfishness. That's manipulation. I turned to leave, but Sarah grabbed my arm. Tom, wait. Please, we can work this out. We can go to counseling. I yanked my arm away. There is no we anymore, Sarah. You made sure of that. As I walked out that door, I heard Sarah break down sobbing. Part of me wanted to turn back, to comfort her. Old habits die hard, I guess. But I kept walking. I ended up driving to the beach, sat there all night, watching the waves crash against the shore, tried to make sense of it all. 15 years of marriage, gone. My wife, pregnant with another man's child, or men's child? Hell, I don't even know. I must have dozed off at some point because the next thing I knew, the sun was coming up. My phone was dead, my back was killing me, and I had sand in places sand should never be. But as I watched that sunrise, something shifted inside me. I was done being the victim, done wallowing in self-pity. It was time to take control of my life again. First things first, I needed a lawyer, a shark of a lawyer. Because if Sarah thought I was just going to roll over and play nice, she had another thing coming. I drove back to the hotel, showered, and put on the only clean clothes I had left. Then I started making calls. By noon, I had an appointment with the best divorce attorney in the city. By 2 p.m., I was sitting in her office, laying out my case. The lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Barbara, listened to my story without batting an eye. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and said, "Well, Mr. Thompson, you've certainly got yourself in a pickle." I couldn't help but laugh. That's one way of putting it. Barbara smiled grimly. The good news is, infidelity works in your favor in this state. The bad news is, things might get messy with the pregnancy involved. We spent the next few hours going over strategies, potential outcomes, what I wanted from the divorce. It was exhausting, but for the first time in weeks, I felt like I had a plan. As I left Barbara's office, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Sarah. "Please come home. We need to talk." I stared at those words for a long time. Home. It wasn't home anymore. It was just a house full of memories and betrayal. I typed out a response. There's nothing left to say. My lawyer will be in touch. Then I blocked her number. It might seem cold, but I knew if I kept that line of communication open, I'd just be setting myself up for more pain, more manipulation. As I walked back to my car, I felt lighter somehow, like I'd finally taken the first step towards reclaiming my life. But little did I know, the real storm was yet to come. Sarah wasn't going to let go without a fight. And those twins? They were about to make things a whole lot more complicated. So there I was, thinking I had a handle on things. Lawyer hired, divorce proceedings started, Sarah blocked on all fronts. I was ready to move on, you know? But life's got a funny way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. It was a Tuesday morning. I just finished my first cup of coffee and was heading out to meet Barbara, my lawyer, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Hello? Is this Tom Thompson? A man's voice, vaguely familiar. Yeah, who's this? It's Jake. Jake Miller. My blood ran cold. Jake, one of the twins, one of the guys who'd been screwing my wife. How'd you get this number? I growled. Look, that's not important, Jake said, sounding nervous. We need to talk about Sarah and the baby. I should have hung up. Should have told him to go to hell, but curiosity got the better of me. Fine. Where? We agreed to meet at a coffee shop downtown, neutral territory. I walked in, scanning the room, spotted him immediately. Or them, I should say. Jake and Luke were sitting at a corner table looking like mirror images of each other. Both tall, dark-haired, annoyingly handsome. Made me want to punch something. I sat down, not bothering with pleasantries. Talk. They exchanged a glance. Luke spoke first. We know about the divorce. Sarah told us. I snorted. Congratulations. You want a medal? Jake leaned forward. Look, we know you're angry. You have every right to be, but there's something you need to know. What, that one of you knocked up my wife? Old news, boys. They shared another look. Luke took a deep breath. It's not that simple. I raised an eyebrow. How's that? Jake ran a hand through his hair. We think Sarah's been lying to all of us. Now that got my attention. Turns out these idiots had done some digging of their own, and what they'd found, well, it was a doozy. We found her medical records, Luke said, sliding a folder across the table. She's not pregnant, Tom. She never was. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. What? Jake nodded grimly. It gets worse. We think she's been playing us all along, using us. They went on to explain their theory. Sarah had apparently been involved in some shady business deals at work. Embezzlement, cooking the books, that sort of thing. She needed a cover, a distraction. And what better distraction than a scandalous affair with twin brothers? But why the fake pregnancy? I asked, still reeling. Insurance, Luke said, in case anyone started asking questions. A pregnant woman under stress? People would be less likely to suspect her of anything. It was like the floor had dropped out from under me. Everything I thought I knew, it was all a lie. Why are you telling me this? I finally managed to ask. The twins exchanged another glance. Because, Jake said, we think she's planning to pin it all on us. And you. Well, shit. I left that coffee shop in a daze. My mind was spinning. My Sarah wasn't just a cheater. She was a con artist, a criminal. I called Barbara immediately, told her everything. She listened, then said 4 words that chilled me to the bone. We need to act fast. The next few days were a blur. Meetings with lawyers, accountants, even a private investigator. Turns out Sarah had been siphoning money from her company for years. Millions of dollars hidden in offshore accounts. And yeah, you guessed it. Some of that money had gone into our dream house. Our vacations, our whole damn life together. I felt sick, used, like my entire marriage had been nothing but a cover for her crimes. But the real kicker? Sarah was planning to flee the country. We found plane tickets, new passports, the whole 9 yards. It was like living in a fucking spy movie. Barbara advised me to play it cool, act like I didn't know anything. We needed to catch Sarah red-handed. So for the next week, I put on the performance of a lifetime, told Sarah I wanted to talk about reconciliation, played the part of the desperate, forgiving husband. And Sarah? She ate it up. Crocodile tears, promises to change, the works. All the while she was planning to leave me holding the bag for her crimes. The day of reckoning came faster than I expected. I got a text from Sarah asking me to meet her at the house. Said she had a surprise for me. I knew what was coming. This was her last play, her attempt to manipulate me one final time before she disappeared. I alerted Barbara and the PI. They were standing by, ready to move. Walking into that house felt surreal. This place that had once been our dream, now tainted by lies and betrayal. Sarah was waiting in the living room, a suitcase by her feet. She smiled when she saw me, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Tom," she said, voice syrupy sweet. "I'm so glad you came." "What's going on, Sarah?" I asked, playing dumb. "What's with the suitcase?" She took a deep breath, putting on her best worried wife face. I think we need some time apart, to figure things out." I nodded slowly. "Where will you go?" "Oh, just to visit my sister for a while," she lied smoothly. "I think the space will do us good." I stepped closer, heart pounding. This was it, the moment of truth. "That's funny," I said casually, "because I could have sworn you were planning to flee the country with millions in stolen money." The look on her face, man, I wish I had a camera. Sarah's mask slipped for just a second, revealing the cold, calculating woman beneath. Then she laughed, a brittle sound. "Don't be ridiculous, Tom. You're not making any sense." But I could see the panic in her eyes. She was scrambling, trying to find a way out. That's when I dropped the bomb. "Game's over, Sarah. The police are on their way. So are the feds. Every cent you stole, every lie you told, it's all coming out." She lunged for her suitcase, but I was faster, grabbed it before she could reach it. "Tom, please!" she begged, mask completely gone now. "You don't understand. I did it for us, for our future." I laughed bitterly. "No, Sarah, you did it for yourself. Always for yourself." The sound of sirens filled the air. Sarah's face went pale. As the police burst through the door, as Sarah was read her rights and led away in handcuffs, I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no relief. Just a bone-deep weariness. My wife, my partner, the woman I'd loved for 15 years. She was a stranger to me now. As I watched the police car drive away, I realized something. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of a long, messy legal battle. But for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. The truth was out. The lies were over. Now, I just had to figure out how to rebuild my life from the ashes of Sarah's betrayal. Man, where do I even start? The aftermath of Sarah's arrest was like a tornado tearing through my life. Everything I thought I knew, everything we'd built together, it all came crashing down. First off, the media had a field day. Suburban Wife's double life was plastered across every local news channel. My face, Sarah's mugshot, even pictures of our house. It was everywhere. Suddenly, I wasn't just Tom Thompson, IT guy. I was Tom Thompson, clueless husband of the embezzling adulteress. Work was awkward, to say the least. People either avoided me like I had the plague or treated me like I was made of glass. My boss called me into his office, asked if I needed time off. I almost laughed in his face. Time off to do what? Sit at home and stew in my own misery? Nah, I needed the distraction. Then came the questioning. Police, FBI, company investigators, they all wanted a piece of me. Did I know about Sarah's illegal activities? Was I involved? How could I not have noticed millions of dollars flowing through our accounts? Truth is, I felt like an idiot. How could I have been so blind? But as Barbara, my shark of a lawyer, pointed out, Sarah had been meticulous in her deception. She'd set up separate accounts, faked documents, the works. I was just another victim of her elaborate con. Speaking of victims, turns out Jake and Luke weren't the only ones Sarah had been stringing along. There were at least 3 other men, all married, all in positions of power at various companies. Sarah had been playing us all, using sex and manipulation to gain access to confidential information and financial accounts. The twins, to their credit, came clean about everything. They even testified against Sarah, detailing how she'd seduced them, played them against each other, used their identical DNA as a smokescreen for her activities. It was like something out of a bad soap opera. As for the fake pregnancy, that was just the tip of the iceberg. Sarah had been lying about, well, pretty much everything. Her job wasn't just in marketing. She'd wormed her way into a position that gave her access to the company's finances. Those late nights at the office, she was cooking the books, not working on big projects. Even our whole relationship was built on lies. Remember how I said we were high school sweethearts? Turns out Sarah had moved to our town senior year specifically to get close to me. My family had money, you see. Not billions, but enough to make us comfortable. Sarah saw me as her ticket to a better life. Everything, from our first chance meeting to our whirlwind romance, it was all carefully orchestrated. Sarah had studied me, learned my likes and dislikes, molded herself into my perfect woman, and I fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker. The house, the vacations, the fancy cars, all paid for with stolen money. I felt dirty, tainted, like I'd been unknowingly bathing in other people's misery for years. But here's the kicker. Despite all the evidence, despite the testimonies and the paper trails and the irrefutable proof of her crimes, Sarah still tried to pin it all on me. Yeah, you heard that right. Little Miss Perfect tried to claim that I was the mastermind behind it all, that she was just an innocent pawn in my grand scheme, that I'd forced her into affairs to gather intel, that I'd threatened her if she didn't comply. It was almost laughable. Me, the IT guy who could barely balance his own checkbook, suddenly a criminal mastermind? Please. Thankfully, no one bought it. Sarah's web of lies had finally tangled around her, trapping her in her own deceit. The divorce proceedings were a nightmare, but nothing compared to the criminal trial. I had to testify, had to relive every lie, every betrayal in excruciating detail. Had to face Sarah across the courtroom, see the cold, calculating look in her eyes as she tried to weasel her way out of justice. But in the end, truth prevailed. Sarah was convicted on multiple counts of fraud, embezzlement, and money laundering. The judge threw the book at her, 25 years, no possibility of parole for at least 15. As they led her away, Sarah looked at me one last time. For a split second, I saw a flicker of the woman I thought I'd married. Vulnerable, scared. But then it was gone, replaced by that icy mask I'd come to recognize as the real Sarah. "I'm sorry it came to this, Tom," she said, voice dripping with fake sincerity. "I really did love you, in my own way." I just shook my head. "No, Sarah, you loved what I represented. Security, stability, a cover for your crimes. But you never loved me." And with that, she was gone. Out of the courtroom, out of my life. The aftermath was messy, to say the least. The house had to be sold to repay some of Sarah's victims. Most of our assets were seized. I was left with barely more than the clothes on my back and a mountain of legal fees. But you know what? I was free. Free from the lies, the manipulation, the constant feeling that something wasn't quite right. It's been 6 months since the trial. I'm living in a small apartment now, starting over from scratch. It's not easy, but it's honest. Real. I've been going to therapy, trying to unpack the last 15 years of my life, trying to figure out how I could have been so thoroughly duped. It's a work in progress, but I'm getting there. The hardest part? Learning to trust again. Not just others, but myself. My own judgment. Because if I could be so wrong about Sarah, what else could I be wrong about? But I'm working on it, taking it one day at a time. And slowly, I'm rebuilding my life. I've reconnected with old friends, ones Sarah had subtly pushed out of our lives over the years. Started volunteering at a local animal shelter. Turns out, dogs are great judges of character. Who knew? Work's gotten better too. Once the initial shock wore off, my coworkers rallied around me. They've been surprisingly supportive, helping me navigate this new normal. As for romance, well, let's just say I'm taking a break from that for a while. Need to get my own house in order before I even think about letting someone else in. But despite everything, the pain, the betrayal, the public humiliation, I'm oddly grateful. Grateful that the truth came out when it did. Grateful that I have a chance to start over, to live authentically. Because here's the thing, Sarah may have taken my past, but she doesn't get to have my future. That's mine, and mine alone. So yeah, it's been a hell of a ride. But I'm still standing, still fighting, and for the first time in a long time, I'm excited to see what tomorrow brings. So here we are, the final chapter in this crazy saga. Man, what a ride it's been. It's been a year since Sarah's conviction. A year of rebuilding, of soul-searching, of trying to figure out who the hell I am without her. I won't lie, it's been tough. There are days when I wake up and for a split second I forget. I reach out expecting to feel Sarah next to me. Then reality crashes in, and it's like losing her all over again. But you know what? Those days are getting fewer and farther between. I've made progress. Lots of it, actually. Therapy's been a godsend. Turns out, I had a lot of issues to work through. Not just from Sarah's betrayal, but from my whole life. Always trying to please others, never putting myself first. Classic doormat syndrome, my therapist calls it. Work's been good. I got a promotion a few months back. Funny how much more productive you can be when you're not constantly worried about your wife's fidelity, huh? I've made new friends too. Real ones. Not the fake social climbers Sarah always gravitated towards. There's this group that meets at the dog park. We call ourselves the Puppy Posse. Sounds lame, I know, but hey, it's nice to have people who accept you, warts and all. Speaking of dogs, remember that shelter I started volunteering at? Well, I kind of adopted one. His name's Buddy. He's this big, goofy golden retriever mix. Previous owners abandoned him. Guess we both know something about being left behind, huh? Buddy's been great for me. Gets me out of the house, gives me a reason to stick to a routine. And let me tell you, there's nothing like a dog's unconditional love to help heal a broken heart. But it hasn't all been smooth sailing. The financial hit from Sarah's crimes? That's going to take years to recover from. I'm basically starting from scratch at 43. Not exactly where I thought I'd be at this point in my life. And dating? Hoo boy, that's a whole other can of worms. I tried about 6 months after the divorce was finalized. Disaster doesn't even begin to cover it. Her name was Lisa. Nice woman. Kindergarten teacher. We met for coffee. Things were going okay until she asked about my ex. I figured honesty was the best policy, so I gave her the Cliff Notes version. The look on her face, you'd think I'd told her I was secretly a serial killer or something. She made some excuse about having to feed her cat and bolted. Haven't seen her since. After that, I decided to take a break from dating. Focus on myself for a while. It's been liberating, honestly. Learning to be comfortable in my own skin, figuring out what I want out of life. But here's the thing that's really been weighing on me lately. Forgiveness. Not for Sarah, hell no. What she did was unforgivable. She's where she belongs, and that's that. No, I'm talking about forgiving myself. Because the truth is, a part of me still feels stupid. Still feels like I should have known, should have seen through Sarah's lies. Like maybe, on some level, I knew something was off but chose to ignore it. My therapist says that's normal, that victims of long-term deception often blame themselves. But man, it's hard to shake. I've been working on it, though, trying to be kinder to myself. Trying to remember that Sarah fooled a lot of people, not just me. And you know what? It's starting to work. Slowly but surely, I'm learning to trust my instincts again, to believe in myself. So where do I go from here? Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Part of me wants to just keep things as they are. Play it safe. Stick to my routine, my job, my dog. No risks, no chances of getting hurt again. But another part wants more. I've been thinking about traveling. Sarah always controlled our vacations, always picked the destinations. There's a whole world out there I've never seen. Maybe I'll take a sabbatical, backpack through Europe. Always wanted to see the Northern Lights, you know? Or hell, maybe I'll just pack up and move. Start fresh somewhere new. Somewhere without all these memories, these ghosts of my past life with Sarah. The world's full of possibilities, and for the first time in a long time, I feel ready to explore them. But I'll be honest, it's scary. The idea of putting myself out there again, of being vulnerable, it terrifies me. What if I'm wrong again? What if I trust the wrong person? What if I'm just setting myself up for more heartbreak? These thoughts, they keep me up at night sometimes, make me question everything. But then, I look at Buddy, snoring away at the foot of my bed, and I think, if this dog can trust again after being abandoned, why can't I? So yeah, I'm at a crossroads. And I'm not gonna lie, I could use some advice. What would you do if you were me? Take the leap into the unknown, or play it safe. Start dating again, or focus on myself for a while longer. Stay here, surrounded by the remnants of my old life, or pack it all up and start fresh somewhere new. I've spent so long living for others, for Sarah, for our perfect life together. Now it's time to live for me. I'm just not sure I remember how. So I'm putting it out there. To anyone who's been through something similar, to anyone who's had to rebuild their life from the ground up, what's your advice? What do you wish someone had told you when you were starting over? Because here's the thing. I refuse to let Sarah win. Refuse to let her actions define the rest of my life. I'm ready to move forward, to create a new chapter. I'm just not sure which page to start on.